Hey, what's up guys? BJ Dell back with an all-new weekly art challenge review video. Last week's word was favorite Christmas movie, so let's see what you guys came up with. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump into the video today. Last week's prompt was favorite Christmas movie, and the first one up is Walter, and Walter went with one of the all-time classics. Of course, everyone knows this movie. You cannot miss this movie. If it's Christmas Day, TBS is playing this 24 hours back to back. It's A Christmas Story, and we've got Ralphie in the iconic pink bunny suit, and I love this piece so much. So, number one, we don't have a face on Ralphie, which I think is really cool. Gives it a very kind of pop art look, but it really puts the focus on the main thing, which is that iconic pink bunny suit. The other thing with this, too, is Walter went with a pink background, and having the main character pink as well, I think works really well. Everything tells you that it shouldn't work well, and this is one of those times where I've talked about before, you know, using complementary colors for a background to make everything pop, and the fact that it just kind of all blends together works, and I think it just drives home the ridiculousness of that big pink bunny suit, and it just works. So there's times where, you know, there's certain rules that you can kind of ignore and you can get really cool things out of it like this. Love the shadow in the back here, and like I said too, with Ralphie not having a face, it's kind of humorous that the faces that are in the picture are the bunny feet down here. I think that is just really cool, and it's a really kind of iconic piece for an iconic character and an iconic outfit. So fantastic job, Walter. Next up, we have Jess, and Jess posts a lot in the group. She is a jack of all trades. She does traditional like this and digital, and I think she's been doing traditional a little bit longer. She said she's a little bit more comfortable with traditional, and this piece is just fantastic. Of course, she used watercolors on this, and I love it. Went with The Grinch, another just all-time classic Christmas movie. I don't think anybody can argue with those two being some of the top movies on a large portion of people's Christmas movie lists, and I just love the piece itself. The fact that she went with this kind of cropped in portion of the face, I think that is really cool. You don't need, you know, the full head and the hat and the body and everything to know it's the Grinch, and I just love the composition of the piece. I know on Facebook too, in the group, the Keep Creating group, if you've not joined yet, definitely hop down in the description below and join over there. One thing I always talk about is a lot of these videos, you know, I do digital art tutorials, but the group is made for everyone that's producing art, so you don't have to do digital. If you do traditional like this, do watercolor or colored pencils or markers or pastels or charcoal or pencil, anything that you do, we want to see it over there. And the one thing that we talked about the other day that somebody had brought up was, what are you guys' favorite artists? Who do you follow online? And I threw out some names, and there was one name too that I follow that I didn't include, and his name is Jason Edmiston, and he's on Instagram, and he is a painter, does traditional pieces, and there's a whole series of art that he does. He takes pop culture characters like this, and he kind of has the same composition, but yet he makes it even more cropped here. It's probably to about right here, and it's just a rectangle of the character's eyes, and it kind of shows you, and Jess did a fantastic job with this too, of how just ingrained in pop culture and ingrained in everyone's minds that a lot of these characters have become, that you can just see this section here and just the eyes, and you know exactly who it is. And that's a really fun exercise to try, you know, instead of drawing an entire character. Just see if you can take a piece, redraw that, and anybody looking at it could tell who it is. And I think Jess did a fantastic job just taking this kind of zoomed, cropped in appearance of the Grinch and making it work. Watercolor, I'm a huge fan of watercolor, just the different switches and the hues and the values that you can get. I love the fur coming around here. Just super cute here with the highlight on the snout, and the way she did the eyes is just fantastic. The shadows coming around here and the highlights that the white forms, and then this really dark section just really brings those eyes out, and I love this piece so much. So fantastic job, Jess. Thanks so much for submitting that this week. I appreciate it. Okay, next up then we have Mark, and Mark is another active member over on the Facebook group, and usually when you're scrolling through the group, Mark's posts kind of stick out because he has a distinct style and you can tell that it is a Mark creation. So this one, he approached it a little bit different, which was kind of cool to see, and I believe he said that he used the gouache brush on this, so it's kind of cool to see a little bit different approach to things. This definitely has a more painterly style to it, which is really nice. I love too the buildings in the back here. You've got a very kind of loose, sketchy feel to them. They're not, perfect drafted architect style buildings, and I think that works. This really comes off as one of those kind of concept sketches that, the creative team behind a movie will do when they're trying to establish the feel or the atmosphere for a movie. And of course, the Muppets Christmas Carol is another one that tops a lot of people's lists. I love too how everything's really dark as far as color value here, and then when you get down to Kermit, it kind of breaks it up with the snow down here, so you've got kind of that dark to light to dark of Kermit over here. So I think that breaks it up, and it just works really, really well. Like I said, it has that very nice painted traditional style to it, and I loved seeing that one this week, Mark. And next up, we have Rocky, and Rocky went with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And this one's really cool. It has a very kind of caricature-esque approach to the design, and I like seeing that. The squirrel here is fantastic too, just the kind of facial expression with the eyes, and it just works really well. Love seeing too this here, using the different line weights. That works really well and kind of drives home that caricature feel to it. One thing I would have almost liked to see here is you did such a great job with the line weights here, but then the line weight down here and the coat and everything else is pretty much the same. So I would just recommend, kind of tying in the use of the different line weights here into the coat down here, making that a little bit more interesting for the viewer, but a fantastic job getting those right up there. And I like the background here. So sometimes combining, a drawn picture with a photograph just is kind of jarring. It doesn't work, and I think this one actually works really, really well. I love the difference in the values here. This is kind of darker and this is kind of brighter here in the back, plus using that blur on there really kind of gives a depth of field to that, so you can tell that the main focus here is definitely in the foreground for the viewer. But just a really great job, and love seeing this one this week. So thanks so much, Rocky. Okay, so next up is Alvin, and initially when I started picking submissions for this video, I wanted to try to get different submissions from different movies. I didn't want to have repeats, but I had to pick The Grinch twice because Jess's was just so cool with being watercolor, and like I said, the composition of it and the framing of the face. And Alvin's is great and stands out because all the designs that Alvin has posted so far in the group, they've all been done with an Android phone and his finger. So that really goes to show you, just look how gorgeous this piece is. Don't feel limited by the supplies that you have. Make the most out of what you have currently. If you don't have a brand new iPad and Apple Pencil, or don't have a drawing tablet and a computer, even if you don't have the best, art supplies, you can still come up with some really cool stuff just by stuff you have laying around at home. And I think that is really key here, just to show you of what is possible. This one just amazed me, and seeing all the stuff that Alvin does just using, an Android phone and his finger is just great. No stylus or anything else, just going here and just building up the layers, building up the textures is just phenomenal. I love kind of the glow here to the face, and you see just has that very painterly style to it once again, just like the previous one for Mark. And it just looks fantastic. So definitely, like I said, stop making excuses, draw some stuff and show it off, because we want to see what you have. So great job this week, Alvin. Last but not least, we have Michael, and Michael went with E.T. And I know Michael said, hey, I know people don't really consider this to be a Christmas movie, but it's something that my family and I have always watched for Christmas. So I think that counts, and I love this one. I know that from the post, Michael has actually just gotten into digital art, and kind of seeing his progression over the past few posts have been really, really cool. So congratulations on kind of getting the hang of everything and being able to produce stuff like this. Just love the moon, the texture here, and the building up of the moon's surface is just so good, and the way that everything glows against that darker night sky, and then with the silhouette of Elliot and E.T. is just super, super great. And the one thing I mentioned on his comment, in his post on the Facebook group, if you guys are a fan of E.T., E.T. was one of my big movies growing up. If you are, you have to get on YouTube and watch the new Xfinity commercial if you've not seen it yet. It is so, so good. So it basically catches up with E.T. He comes back to Elliot after Elliot's grown up and has a family and kids of his own. And it's a long commercial. I'm talking about almost 3 minutes, but it is almost like a Super Bowl commercial. It has that level of production quality. I know when I mentioned it to Michael, he said, "Oh, I didn't know they were coming out with a new movie." It's not a new movie. They just put a ton of money into the commercial. So if you guys are fans of E.T. and you have not seen that, you have to watch it. And if you do not at least tear up a little bit, you do not have a soul. So that's it for the designs this week for your favorite Christmas movie. Alright guys, that's it for this week's video. As always, thank you for watching, and thanks to everybody that submitted designs once again. If you liked today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. And if you guys are new to the channel and don't know how this works, basically I film one of these videos on Wednesday and give you guys a new word of the week. Then you hop on over to Facebook at the Keep Creating group, which I'll post the link in the description below, and share your design based on that word of the week. You've got from Wednesday until the following Tuesday, and then I do the new video reviewing that past week's designs on Wednesday. So hop on over there and share. If you don't have Facebook, you can also tag me on Instagram or Twitter, or email them to me, and I'll tell you at the end how you can reach me there. So last week's word was favorite Christmas movie, and it's still kind of the Christmas season. It's still the winter holiday season, and personally, the winter and the snow always reminds me of a movie myself. It's not a Christmas movie. It's called The Dog That Ended the War. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It came out in like 84, 85, and it's a French-Canadian movie, and it was about these two warring kind of clans or gangs of children that had this huge snow fight. And at the end of the movie, they've got this huge snow fort, this castle that they're kind of defending, and the one kid's dog gets inside and underneath the castle, the snow fort, and it collapses and kills the dog. And that dog was a Saint Bernard. So the Saint Bernard, because of that movie, was the dog that I always wanted growing up and eventually got later on in life. We got Blue Bear back when our kids were super, super young. I'm actually going to post a photo here. This was a Christmas card from years ago. So my daughter on the left is now 21. Daughter on the right is 17. She'll be 18 here pretty soon. So Blue Bear was with us for about 13 years before she got cancer and we had to put her down. But at least she had a good life. She didn't die in a snow fort accident. But this week's word, because of that, because it reminds me of winter, because it reminds me of good times, is Saint Bernards. So let's see what you guys can do. I want to see Saint Bernards. So share those away. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.